one of those people that's like, I don't care if they look at my data. I've got nothing to hide.
Yeah, if everyone in your neighborhood has a Ring doorbell and it's recording at all times, it probably does make your neighborhood safer. But if that footage is also being used to surveil the citizens of the United States, is that worth the trade?
Quick question, because you and I both do use AI for certain things. If you had the power, all the power, and you could wave your magic wand and make it so that society never has AI, would you do it?
100%.
I think most people would say that. And that, the fact that I think most human beings would say that, and yet we are still having it forced upon us everywhere we fucking turn, is pretty wild.
You had mentioned, what if you have cancer and AI is the solve? And I think that's a really good point you bring up because, and this is what a lot of people get mad about. People get really offended by AI doomsdayers or people who are resisting AI because they're like, you're robbing the world from progress. You're a Luddite. And that's an offensive term. Like, you want to stop progress. And that's such a really dumb way to think about people as Luddites versus non-Luddites. Because really what the argument isn't Luddite versus non-Luddite, it's who believes the trade-off is worth it and who believes the trade-off isn't worth it. And a great example of this, just in a microcosm version of this, is Ring surveillance. It's been in the news because Ring had that Super Bowl ad. The advertisement was, now there's a new feature on the Ring doorbell app where you can look for lost dogs and your camera will scan the neighborhood and look for the lost dog. Well, our public is more informed now about how technology is not our friend. Mm-hmm. And so everyone saw that ad and was like, yeah, no. And there was enough stink about it that the CEO, after being partnered with a surveillance company named Flock it was a new partnership. He's been working with the police since Ring was invented, but he stopped a partnership. He broke up a partnership that he had planned with a surveillance company because the backlash to that ad was so strong. So let's take stock of that moment that the public reacted and it worked.
Yeah.
Which is really great. And that just shows you how loud people are about. I don't think that would have been I think that ad would have passed with flying colors a few years ago. But the point I'm making is Ring cameras, they help stop crime. 2 days after this happened, Ring doorbell footage or it wasn't Ring, it was Nest, but Savannah Guthrie's mother, the perpetrator, was caught on camera.
Yeah.
And the Ring CEO went on the news to talk after that. He saw that opportunity. This was, again, like 48 hours after the Super Bowl ad. Saw it as an opportunity to go on the news and talk about how important it is to have your doorbell record video because you can solve crimes like this. And then it was funny. The news reporters were like, yeah, your ad was so bad. And he was like, okay.
Yeah.
But, and I have to note, if you haven't seen the news about that footage, it was also learned that Savannah Guthrie's mom didn't have a subscription to Google Nest, which means her footage should not have been stored. And somehow they were able to extract it. And that raised a lot of red flags. But the point is, the question becomes, do we give up our surveillance so we can make our environment safer?
Safer for who, though?
Yeah. So that's the thing is, if everyone in your neighborhood has a Ring doorbell and it's recording at all times, it probably does make your neighborhood safer. But if that footage is also being used to surveil the citizens of the United States, is that worth the trade? And I think no. And that's a hard pill to swallow when that actually happens to you. But it's just an example of how, again, this is not about Luddite versus non-Luddite. This is about, is it worth the trade-off to take the power away from us and give it to the people we don't trust? And that doesn't mean you can't we both use AI. I like AI as a technology. That doesn't mean I think it should be in our doorbells.
Yeah, I think part of the reason why we aren't willing to make sacrifices like that anymore is because the trust in the government is now so low. And maybe we always should have had very, very, very little trust in the government. I'm just thinking about myself, like, as you know, I've always been a big true crime fan. And I remember back in, like, I think it was 2018, and they caught this very infamous serial rapist and murderer called the Golden State Killer. And they caught him through genetic genealogy. And it was literally just people who had uploaded their DNA through like 23andMe, Ancestry.com. But that was how they found this guy. They found this guy who had raped and killed so many people, and they put him in jail. And I remember at the time, somebody was saying to me, well, that's fucked up that they looked at people's genetic stuff without them really knowing about it. And I was like, I don't think it's fucked up. I think it's great. I think it's genius. I was one of those people that's like, I don't care if they look at my data. I've got nothing to hide. What are they going to find on me? You know? But I think like, I hear about Palantir now, which, guys, we're going to do a whole episode on Palantir at some point, but like, they are, I can't even go into it right now or I'll start like spiraling, but they are like the most evil company who's working with the government to like give them all of our data and organize it so that if they, like, we see the government going after people trying to make up fake crimes for their enemies. And that's not to say I think or ever plan to be like an enemy of the government, but like, if I ever did, I'm sure that they could now use my data or whatever to dig something up or create some kind of strange thing to go after me. Like, I think that's the reason why we're no longer able to make the sacrifice. I personally, like I said, was somebody that was like, take my data, take whatever you need if it's going to mean helping somebody else. Take my Ring door camera footage if it's going to catch somebody who's hurt somebody else. But that was back when I naively maybe had some trust that the government was trying to do the right thing by people. And now I'm like, oh no, they don't give a fuck about us. Like, they do not give a fuck. So, no, you can't have any of my stuff. And if that means that some criminals don't get caught, that really fucking sucks. But, like, I blame the government. I can't blame myself for that. I blame the government for not doing the responsible thing with the information and data and stuff that they get. That shouldn't be on us.